Blessed love and peace. English again. Guess what that means? Expensive. We require land. For Kutu hounds. Kutu hounds. Kutu hounds. Mukbang. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu Akbar. Dao ke dao fe cheng dao. Ming ke ming fe cheng ming. Jah Rastafari. Deus noster qui es in cielo sanctificato nomen tu. Vaheguru sanam. Baruch atah Elohim Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Seva mastu savajigatahi. Sabe sata bavantu sukitata. Fagabia. Makwaba upendo na amani. Vikiri na salami. Chinta dan per me. Liebe of me, woman jika. Ubuntu shubana vakitka. Session. Como se nira. Domo arigato. Pelo mayelo. Waka toka toka loko shingu. Gomen the garden. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Ata jamya yata afanami. Madu. Aho. Om shanti shanti shanti. Amen. Savage vegan. Alhamdulillah. Salat today. Hallelujah. Baruch Hashem. Jai Om. Energy. Relation. Appreciation. Gratitude and graduation. Now some of this narration. How about that? Newer. Nutrition. Nourishment. Nice. We actually got something to say. We got a few things to say and further things to do. What's happening? All things in appropriation. Does the Google Translate and the IA, Internal Affairs, Artificial Intelligence, AI, potato. Does that register like nonverbal cues, irony, sarcasm? What that is? Slang. Ghetto speak. Is ghetto speak guarded by the black gates? What about the favelas? The black speaking favelas and the shanty towns where colored people speak Afrikaans, if at all, before pulling triggers. Ooh, nasty. You know what? We got this moderation. We got this moderation. We got this. Yo, it moderates itself. And then this. Oh, it moderates itself, particularly by price, because this is nice. This is medicine, thorough medicine. This is medicine, thorough. This is appetite, for the most part. This is what's it when parents try to get children to eat it? Anyways, appetite. This is appetite. The difference between the two, this is a combination: medicine, appetite, energy. Can't say gorilla mode. Why? Because it's cooked. Do have some things to do. So actually have some basics to share today. Okay. To be honest, there are a number of things that are considered to share beforehand, and not for different reasons. The politics of utensils. Sparrows, serious. We gotta have a combo because I done shared breakfast. This is my breakfast. At noon. Still before midday though. Afternoon before midday. We're in that zone of irony. We got things to say. So rather than getting into like the whole spiel of presets or whatever else, we'll share. And if there's things at the end, well, things at the end, by the grace of the Most High. So, we're foregoing the medicine and the appetite for today because healthy. It's easier to consume the medicine when using some of the appetite. But again, too much appetite is adverse. So because of that, yeah, we're just sticking straight with the energy. Blue Jays are awesome. They're doing some kind of signals. They're doing some kind of thing right now. It's a little bit. It's not like urgent, like a hawk is here, but it's like it's coordinating. Something going on. Anyway, fine. Oribanga. Birds can be pushy. That's funny. Alright, so here's what we got to say. Some of what we got to say, or what we got to share. Now this one is this is a ditty. This is my knee, my leg, and my knee. I'm on 150 acres. I like that now. Okay. All right. Not settling out of court. So the first thing we share is about American culture. A number of people communicate concerns about people doing things differently, even living together in a different way, and then people start casting shade and speculation and scrutiny and all types of like uncertainties and doubts and concerns about this different group or whatever else. It sounds like a cult. Oh, you know what they do at cults, or you know what cults do, and everything else like that. And then their citation of Jonestown, and their citation of Waco, and then if it need be, Charles Manson, or what? I mean, all these extreme. The joint from like the '90s or whatever that was mass suicide, going to the moon or something, going to Mars. So all these like extreme examples of oftentimes what the government does to the people. All the excuse me, but then like it gets. I mean, the cult thing is scary because it's going on right now in terms of like low key violence, like women's cults, and all different type of things. But here's the thing. Here's something for consideration. First of all, I've said it before. America is built from cults, religious cults, fleeing from persecution from England. Um, Conquesting cults, cats just trying to like conquer, um, and otherwise. I mean, everything that arrives here, it arrives on the pretense of some kind of cultish behavior, and that's actually what we're talking about here. Because here we go. Democrats and Republicans are political cults. Facts, 100% cults. They might be mainstream. There might be millions of card-carrying members. When kinfolk get to the echelon, the hierarchy, what you see is increasingly cultish behavior. It becomes increasingly secretive, increasingly manipulative, um, and even with rituals and nasty sacrifices, and additionally, Republicans and Democrats in different ways, but both are political cults. LGBTQ is cult. All religions are cults. To be honest, it'd be difficult to call the government a cult per se because the government is kind of like a collection of cults, um, and people are representatives of those cults participating in the public forum that is available for everybody to see. That's why it's so fake and bullshit, because it's a facade. It's a theater. Everything's a theater. Oh, share that one too. Um, oh, and also sharing that these sharings are actually um, are getting ready to be otherwise. Um, Anyways, it's called corporations are commercial cults. Again, even multinational corporations with thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands on staff. When you get to the leadership of all these different entities and groups, you find that it becomes increasingly cultish, where the decisions are made, um, where the nasty business is orchestrated. It is cultish. It is increasingly secretive. There are rituals. There's a knowledge, efficacy, effectiveness to get things done, because that's the nature of organization. Um, well, I'm sharing like conversations that are shared intended for others at the moment, so be that as it is. So that's that. LGBTQ is cult. Corporations are cult. Anything else? Um, all racial supremacies are cults. Social movements are cults. Environmentalists are cults. Everything's a cult. Why? Propaganda is what people see on the in the big numbers and in public, and additionally, but all of it is a theater, and all of it is orchestrated by a very small number of people who are very secretive, very manipulative, very exclusionary, very self-promotional, um, and that's facts. So and then casting shade on each other and being strategic in that process, predatory. So it's not even competition, it's predatoriness. So with that, what's the point? Being mindful, being honest, understanding that being honest, being compassionate, being modest in our ambitions, in our wants in this life is one of the antidotes, or all of that, concerning cultish experiences, and particularly the imposition of cults. Again, caveat, ain't no guarantees, ain't no invincibilities. It's just nature of things. There are likelihoods. Ain't no absolutes, but there are degrees, and there is a spectrum. So that's some of it. What else to share on this joint? I'll share the anthem again. I won't explain the anthem at the moment again, but just for the record, Ahimsa Ubuntu Veritas Haya Shu Maka Higa Samari Shema Shabono Nara Nisimafo Academia Sadauji Gambao Forgiveness. 16. Yes, he says principles. It is a walk. It is a discipline. It is a deen. It is also a force field, a protection, a shield from the predatory proddings. What we observe in interacting with people are predators, people are children of God, people are devil, people are wrestling, even just with chopsticks. So the point of that is that people are doing the best that people can. And in this process, one of the trippy things, and I'll share this one. One of the trippy things is that people are also drunk. Not everybody, but the vast many of people are drunk. And in being drunk and not in their own control, when kinfolk are doing ignorant things, when kinfolk are doing things that are hurtful to others, very often kinfolk are doing it whilst being drunk. And I'll say what the point is, and then I'll give a metaphor example of this. The point is, rather than lambasting the person categorically and annihilating that person, either physically or mentally or whatever, to subdue the immediate aggression as much as possible, the immediate harm that's being caused, and otherwise, optimally reason with the person as much as possible, because the personal admonishment, as strongly reasoned as it may be, often simply precipitates the person to become further belligerent and double down on the ignorance. When indeed, when the person is sober, the person wants to do benevolence. But when the person feels attacked, that causes further experience of drunkenness, or a motivation to experience further drunkenness as escape from awakening to what's actually going on. So I'll try to explain that again further coherently, concisely. If somebody's tripping, rather than attacking that person, even if it's very, very yo, this person is seriously tripping, ain't no question about it, attacking that person directly simply, and most often simply, just causes that person to be further defensive and further entrenched within whatever offenses and hostilities and harms that person is doing. So it's the thing about um, the difference between sugar, vinegar, whatever that thing is, like, um, but it's not just that, because that in and of itself can be another way of fueling. I'm getting caught up with this thing here now, but it's not just a matter of acquiescing and just placating, because that's bullshit too, and that's feeding into the hostilities. It's a continual process of holding one's own and not tolerating bullshit, but at the same time not striking it either, as much as possible. So I'll give you an example. I'll give two examples that are like address two different aspects of this. So the first example about being drunk, it's just like if you've ever been around somebody who's drunk, you know that when they're sober, they're nice, this and the other. But like on this particular occasion, they're drunk and they're kind of like semi-functional. They're in pain. They're getting drunk because they're in pain. They can't deal with the pain, so they want to numb it, and they just want to feel life without that pain. But in doing that, they become ignorant, belligerent, or whatever else. You know, all the different types of drunks. And the thing is, there's very little reasoning with that person whilst that person is drunk. You can't say, you are drunk right now. Sober up. Settle down. It's like, you can try, it might be semi-effective or whatever else, but it's a different kind of process, it's a different kind of conversation than when somebody is sober. So we have to be very mindful of that. And at this moment, in each day, the vast many people of this life, everybody's drunk, to be honest, on one thing or another, whether it's intoxicants, whether it's sex, whether it's money and buying things, or whether it's going after money and buying things, whether it's going after women, whether it's going after dudes, whether it's going after status, education, and prestige, and echelons of the hierarchy, whether it's hustling, grinding, running the streets, or whatever else, whether it's religiosity and delving into the books, and additionally, and a sense of superiority or otherwise. People are getting drunk off the illusions within life, and then increasingly prone towards belligerence towards others. And just being called out has a tendency, again, of the defensiveness of the reaction. So it requires, again, patience. Patience does so much, makes such a difference. That's for myself, because I say this, but then, I was yelling at a skunk 2 days ago. Yelling at night, houses around me, raising my voice loud at a skunk, because the skunk did not move away from the sidewalk distant enough for my comfortability. And my rationale at that point is, this skunk is not being timid. Then the concerns of any slight concerns of rabies. The skunk found something that I was walking nearby and was like insistent upon staying there, and like was not trying to leave too distant. So as I'm walking by, I'm like, yo, skunk. I stopped. I signaled, like, you can see me. I'm walking through. Let's keep some distance. And the skunk did not want to leave. It walked away a little bit. It's a long story on the side road, but anyways, this is not even the story I was planning. Point is, I raised my voice. So patience. Now yesterday, as I'm walking again, I encountered another skunk, 2 skunks. This time, guess what? I move out the way. Why? Because maybe I was tripping the first time, just a couple of days ago, requiring the skunk to move out of my path of the sidewalk. And when I moved out of the way this second time, yesterday, made way for the skunks and not to bother the skunks. Know what happens? The skunks run away. Ha ha, how about that? And then started following me a little bit. Anyway, let me tell it. So, the point is, like, patience. Patience makes such a difference in dealing with people. I've shared before recent stories. I've recently shared before stories about like things getting to a point and like how we respond to it is all the difference in the world. Literally, it is all the difference in the world. Do you hear that now? How we respond is all the difference in the world. Alhamdulillah, Baruch Hashem, Hallelujah, Jayo, Shishimado. So we might be sharing that one today. All right. All thanks and praise to the Most High, Elohim, Rastafari. So, continuing on, the other example that I would share is this. At the same time, patience, patience, patience makes all the difference, is all the difference. Excuse me. At the same time, there are hyenas in this life. There are hyenas. And even though kinfolk are children of God and devil and wrestling, and kinfolk want to do good, kinfolk want to do the best for the well-being of all. Kinfolk want to do that in deep in their hearts. Everybody, we got to be on faith. We got to step on faith with that one. But even when that is the case, even when that is facts, even when that is truth, 100, no cap, at the same time, kinfolk are hyenas. What that mean? Sniffing. What can I get? Ooh, wait a minute. Was that an opportunity right there? What you got over there? Always sniffing. You sniffing. Oh, dude. The Erie. What up? We from the Erie. Anyway, respect and peace to the Wyandotte Nation. That's the thing about it. If we're too nice, if we just like, oh no, it's okay. No, the hyenas sniff. And then the hyenas get a little bit of courage. And then the hyenas start to circle up and get numbers. And the hyenas like, oh, okay, we're here now. We did the mathematics. We got the numbers. You gonna have to bounce. I gotta work on my animal laughs, on my animal sounds. But hyenas have like an eerie laugh. It's like, ooh, they nasty. Like, it's just like, ugh. Particularly from the lion's perspective of like a big, quote unquote, noble lion, supposedly. Any further noble than any other animal, but like the big. And then all of a sudden, like the hyenas coming around. One hyena, we had that joke before, ha 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 ha. 2 hyenas, 3 hyenas, 4 hyenas. It's like, oh, you buggers. That kind of thing. People as predators have that intrinsic characteristic of being hyenas. And when sniffing, detecting some vulnerability, some opportunity of getting over on somebody, it's difficult to resist. And when kinfolk seem to make it easy, walk around with their bling bling or whatever else, with their whatever their immodesty is. As much as hyenas endeavor to resist, there is always temptation. So, anyways, that's some of the experience. Things to check within ourselves, and to perceive, to recognize, to respect within others, and then to find the balance in the medium. The medium, the extra large, the petite, and the appetite. All right. and the bon appetit. So that's that. So now I guess we're gonna wrap this up. We're half an hour, and we're gonna hit the roads of creation by the grace of the Most High. So, further public service announcement. As I mentioned before, I think on these joints, at this point, in this stage of Asona Ashram and Songa Yosef Rastafari, we are putting the part-time instructions, the part-time teaching, or I should put it like this: we are putting on hiatus the services of instruction to part-time students, and only at this time providing instruction to full-time students. The requirements for full-time students are the same for the requirements for involvement within our community. Those requirements are no citizenship, no ownership, Panchasilas, peace, sharing, chastity, honesty, sobriety. That is the tuition. That's the prerequisites. That is the fuel to bring as a full-time student. So what that means is these joints are being on pause. Anticipated within the near future, God willing. Other than in addition to that policy or that adjustment, we are also myself, I should say, and a number of us are maintaining a policy of outside in interacting with kinfolk outside of the community on a transactional basis only. Transactional basis only. What that mean is, like, ain't no allyship, ain't no solidarity, ain't no cooperatives, ain't no ongoing contracts, ain't no ongoing arrangements, promises, treaties, or otherwise outside of members of our community. Transactional only. Transactional meaning like here at this moment, going to the market and a barter and exchange. There can be de facto cooperation in terms of, oh, you're here again another week later, week after week, fine, month after month, fine, we see each other again. We're not promising to be there. We're not promising whatever else. Amidst that, again, and we're relying less upon others being there or doing that either. So it is somewhat of a new discipline. It involves acclimation. it's already effectively being done for a while in many ways, but as a particular intentional protocol, this is comparatively new. So rather than just saying we're going to commit to this, haha, just communicating intentionality and progression. What that tangibly means is, again, perhaps an absence of any of these joints, because this is an interaction, kind of relational type of thing, that requires internet service and other infrastructure under duress type conditions. So there's that, and also we have less of an onus and proclivity of participating on these endeavors and in this communication, particularly when the recipients and the audience and the other kinfolk abstain from sharing the same priorities of being in community and otherwise. So that helps us to concentrate further on those who do. That also includes, I've been doing the weekly considerations for years and years, and continue doing the weekly considerations by the grace of the Most High. We give thanks and praise for this as part of the foundation of our practice and experience. That being said, the post that I share online for the weekly considerations, there's anticipated an adjustment with that. So for this upcoming year, what the theme is similar to this past year about the green, towards the green of man and woman. The difference being that with each week, the intention, God willing, is to identify just a few words or terms in the original language and share those, just the terms. So we focus on vocabulary and language learning. So that being said, the anticipation this coming year with these adjusted protocols of only maintaining transactional relation is outside the community, is not posting these things on a weekly basis. He's so serious. So, and we know that does we know what we get from doing that. We know what we experience, and we know that because of what we experience, that there is also resonance beyond ourselves for us to experience what we experience in sharing it. So we articulate this accordingly for people's information. And that applies to a lot of other things in terms of emails and online communications and posts like this, as I mentioned before. I began a series of the deep dives concerning mixed heritage history and civilization. We receive a number of positive responses concerning that. Given conditions at the moment, there's been some preclusion in continuing on with the series. I think I posted some of the additional iterations of that regarding a number of other historic legends. However, again, I mentioned the intention of doing a number as part of a test run. So we've experienced a test run. The project to complete a writing of the Tabari Gokudao, to be honest, it's actually, in some ways it's off, in some ways it's already done. By that I mean this: we already completed this year the intended text a number of months ago, but it's on a word processing format rather than a book publishing format. We began transferring the text onto the book publishing format and having to go through all the formation of the text to accommodate the book publishing platform. And as we go through that process, which is very, very tedious, and the subject matter that we even just the text, the text is extremely heavy and dense. For people who know about literature, for people who know about like the power and the energy of words, the difference between like reading poetry from like I don't want to be diminutive, dismissive, or speak diminutively of any type of writing, but not all writing is created equal. Some writing is light and it's easy to read. It's like, okay, boom, 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 breeze through it, magazine completed, done. Some reading, it's like a paragraph, and what people have to spend years trying to figure out. And it's not just gobbledygook. Gobbledygook. That's actually a word. It's not just like nonsense. It's like, yo, this is powerful, insightful wisdom. It's one paragraph and it's dense. So that's what, and that's exactly what we're dealing with these texts. It's not original writing, but it's thousands of years old, and it's very dense, and it's coming from around the world. It's heavy. If you are on it, so that's what we do by the grace of the Most High. But even just formatting it, the energy of the words itself, it causes lapse of concentration. It's easy to like get distracted and get frustrated, particularly at 2 a.m. and doing it for hours and hours and hours, days and days and days, sometimes without sleep, because this is the nature. It's a journey, literally, by just sitting here. So all that being done, when we endeavor to format, and we've been working on this, we've been doing this already for years, and periodically we have to make. It's beneficial to make updates and do adjustments, because it's difficult to do everything at one time, because it takes so much to do outside of whatever else is going on in life. So when we got to a point of putting it together at this moment, and we get to the point of like, yo, we have it available to like get it done with the online self-publishing or whatever, as we've done with other books, we just feel the forces that are very antagonistic towards it. Forces even within the other religions saying, we don't want this to be all together, this, that, and the other. We don't want you to present it this. Yeah, we know it's the exact words and whatever else, essentially. Yeah, we know it helps, but no, we don't want to be next to da-da-da. We feel all of that, and we feel all the angels and all the support and for it and everything. So all that being said, as it get closer and closer towards completion, right there, we just see like all these obstacles started to come back forth at us. Like, yo, no. And at some point it becomes, okay, yo, we can't, for myself personally, we've invested so much. This is too much. We're gonna have to pause and wait for the readiness to arrive, to receive it and support it accordingly. So that's where that is. To be specific, like we just literally like just finishing touches of just working on the heading of the sections, and additionally, and then like the right adjustment, the right margin adjustment won't stick. Like all the Hebrew, the Arabic, it keeps going back to the left side, and then the company doesn't want to like say how to fix it or whatever else. And then all of a sudden, when doing it in a different way, or like doing a different document, all of a sudden it's all adjusted correctly. We get anomalies like this that show like, okay, things are going on where it's beyond our immediate knowledge about how to do, at least my immediate knowledge of how to do the mechanics of programming or whatever else. So it's relying upon others who don't necessarily subscribe to what's going on. And it's not even a matter of, well, I'm getting a little bit too much detail, whatever, but it's relying upon others to provide a service. And then when others are actually being rebellious and actually even just providing the service as that entity, and this is going on with everything else that we got going on, all the other challenges happening, everything. So it's okay, fine. That's it. We'll wait again until there's appropriate readiness and support and respect. So that's where that is. That was just one thing. The prices have been tripled. Certain services have been removed, so now the only services that are available are the further expensive prices. So it's the further expensive prices which are tripled, but can be 50% off if one does it within 5 days or something. So it's like all these things. It's like, yo, all right, nah, okay, fine. Now that being said, we still have the documents, and there's still, God willing, the prospect and the eventuality of continuing on with our intentions of making it available online, as well as having a hard copy. But in the meanwhile, the how I say this briefly, let's try to get this finished in 5 minutes, which is kind of definitely within the hour, God willing. All right, here we go. in a project like this, there's only so much that can be done in a reasonable time zone. Like what we've been doing this for over 20 years, to be honest. It took about 10 years to complete one copy, an English translation altogether of each of them. Authentic translations from Orthodox of each of the communities. So it's like the further rooted teachings. Then a number of years later, we're able to put together the original text of all the teachings, as well as a transliteration of how the text is pronounced. So right there, that took a few years to put all together and assemble. You can go to any one of the religious communities and get it like this. The religious communities can offer themselves. What we offer, or what we share, is it compiled together, and compiled together from comparatively orthodox practitioners of the tradition itself, which is one of the values that we share in the service that we provide. And so that was a few years ago we completed that. Now, that being said, since then we develop a methodology, particularly within the English language, of grammar and interpreting or translating some of the words and terms in a way that is increasingly attuned towards the understanding of the beliefs and the proclamations given contemporary experience. And that might just be a fancy word for like translating into common parlance of today, but there's a legitimacy with it. Just except for one example, all the texts referring to God as He, all the religions know and say God is not a masculine, but still the English translations refer to God as a He. So in our English translations, we don't. We just say God, or whatever the term is. Allah, Elohim, Tao. So obviously you don't say He for Tao anyways. Brahman. So that's one example of what I'm talking about in terms of translating. But then also, like, we have grammar. So basically one line is basically a complete phrase or a prepositional phrase. So it's easier cognitively to process what is being communicated. It becomes less dense. We can just intuitively see what is being articulated, and even just whilst we're reading it, it's much further fluid and accessible compared to just seeing a block of text that just like completes the thing. So those are some of the techniques and some of the things that we add to the text that make it further accessible, but it takes work. And we started doing that within recent years after the second version is completed. So what we initially endeavor for this third version is including an online copy that's neat and presentable, and gives some confidence for people who are seeing it for the first time, and then also in the English translation. However, huge undertaking. So when endeavoring to do that and seeing like how much that's going to take and like what's going on in life, and like, oh yeah, it's one thing to have these projects and I'm just here and I do this, but when streets is kicking up dust and everything else like that, we got to get off these books and off these scriptures and walk these roads of creation. And so that takes us away from that, and it's difficult to plan because this is a weekly. The text is a year-long schedule of weekly studies. So there are 54 volumes in this sequence, in this series. So, and it's maybe each volume averages about 100 pages depending on how we format it. But it could be from 100 to 200 pages. So we're talking about 5,000, if that math, about 5,000 to 6,000 pages at least of text. So to translate it would be about a third, because that 100 pages includes both the original language, the transliteration, and the English translation. So a third of that would be 2,000 pages of words to translate, of dense text to specifically format line by line and make adjustments in terms of words and concepts. So have to be very careful, concentrated, and it's not just something that I'll do while multitasking, whatever. It requires significant concentration. So it was evident like that's not going to be done in this year, and we see that a year ago. So instead, what we endeavor to do is complete the presentable part and making it available online. There are also some adjustments, just like on the part of the business side or whatever, not the business, but like the brass tacks or whatever. We do make some adjustments in terms of the sequence of text in a number of ways in recent years. For example, in one example is with the sequence in studying the Quran. The whole of the Quran is read within the course of a year, just like the whole of the Torah, the whole of the Gospels, the whole of the entirety, I'll say. The entirety of the Quran, the entirety of the Torah, the entirety of the Gospels, the entirety of the Tao Te Ching, the entirety of the Lunyu, the Analects, the entirety of the Bhagavad Gita, the entirety of the Chandogya Upanishads, as well as additional Upanishads, the entirety of the Digha Nikaya, the entirety of the Dhammapada, and further. So, specifically within the Quran is presented within a certain sequence of the surah. But those surahs are not, as it's historically for hundreds of years, or for over 1,000 years, the way the Quran is presented, the way the recitation is presented, it is not in a chronological order, a chronological sequence. Now, we're not at all challenging that. We're not at all denigrating that or whatever else. What we do say, though, is that it is beneficial, it is insightful, it is revelatory to study the Quran in the chronological sequence, to have an understanding of the historical events of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Ummah, what is being experienced in the earthly, and to fuse that with what is being shared from the heavenly during that process. What is initially shared in terms of revelation, what is then shared in terms of encouragement in dealing with the persecution and challenges, what is shared in terms of the deen and the principle. And anyway, so we find benefit in studying the Quran chronologically. That's what we do this year for the first occasion on a formal basis in our sequence. And so that's an example of one of the adjustments from our second version. And that requires having another. We have printout copies in addition, and that's what we read from and study. And now, one of the purposes of this third version is having a printed copy of it in this with these adjustments. So those are two of the main things. And that's just one example. There are a number of a few other adjustments in terms of sequence with the Menkte and some additional text as well. So there's benefit in having a printed copy of that, so that rather than like thumbing through stuff and loose papers and everything else like that during each occasion we do the studies and recitations, it's a matter of having just a plain hard copy of it, so that it's further conducive towards study and calmness when it's being done. So that was one reason for the third version, and then the second reason is for, like I said, the English translation. But as it becomes evident that the English translation would be too prohibitive to try to complete just within this particular year, at least with things going on, still working on having settled residence and stable livelihood and marriage and everything else. It's like, okay, yeah, that project requires having a quietness of a sanctuary, to be able to just each week for a long part of the week just block out blocks of hours in the week, in the work week, Monday through Wednesday, that's devoted to just being quiet and delving into those translations. And that wasn't available this past year. We don't anticipate it being too tough this next year. I can't say God willing, that's what we anticipate. So I'm busying myself cleaning rice off spoons. So it may be something that like it's spread over a longer duration and happens as is available. So point is that we continue on going with the first part of what we were attending in terms of having the adjusted text sequence, but without the English version, the new English versions of the translation and formation and everything. So the thing about it, and what factors into it too, is that as it becomes further difficult, further expensive, like the minimum price for printing one of the books, any of the books, the minimum price for black and white hardcover copy of what we're printing is $20. That's the minimum. And then there's a per page after like maybe 24 pages. There's a per page cost to it. So the minimum would be $20 for each volume, each of the 50 volumes. So obviously that's over $1,000 for the entire series. That's huge. How many people can do that? How many people done got the stuff that we already put up? Now we make it available because people can get the free preview and can access the text without cost anyways. We also, with this new publisher, I'm not going to say the name because I'm not trying to show shade or business either way. But the publisher also has the option of providing an online version, an e-version of the book. Now that costs $7 minimum. That price also went up. So like I said, the prices went up. So right there, that's $27. That's like $30 minimum for each volume of the 50 volumes. So that's over $1,500. That's a lot for us to pay. We have to go through things to get money. We can get money. Anybody can get money. Ain't no thing. But it's like dirt that's done one way or the other. Whether we like it or not, we just make it. We try to make the dirt as least bloody as possible. But it's to get money, de facto, it's dirt. So we try to get money as infrequently as possible. $1,500 for books is a lot, and recognizing that, it becomes like, all right, and that's the thing, right? When it's next to completion, and we're sort of like finding out, okay, not these next details. We've published this joint before for a long time, but then as we complete this project, we're seeing things change in terms of the policies, and then it becomes, like I said before, this non-responsive kind of belligerence about just the basic functionality of the service itself, about right margin adjustments and stuff like that, basic things that should be working, particularly to pay that amount, and it's not going to work. It's like, no. And then even then, all that being said, even for it to be this third version with the anticipation of completing another fourth version with the English adjustments, it's like, so the eventuality of like purchasing on a whole nother set, it's like, yeah, you know what, nah. So all that being said, we have the text by the grace of the Most High at this point. Basically speaking, we might have to do some adjustments, lightweight, to the text we have, but we already have essentially the finished product in the word processing format. So it might be a matter of just printing it as it is, whatever that cost may be, and then I maybe work on establishing it as a PDF file or something like that, so it's downloadable and we can share it in that respect. Google Drive or Google whatever. But to be honest, if we're going to be actual about this, that kind of intentionality is also relying upon the ongoing service of Google, for better and for worse. So in our policy of transactional only, that's not just a transaction, that's an ongoing service. That's relationship, that's dependence, that's trust, that's influence, that's manipulation, that's subjectivity to policy changes. I remember 20 years ago when Google Video buys YouTube, and when it buys YouTube, it provides notice to all of its Google Video members who post videos on Google Video that Google Video will be discontinued, and all the videos on Google Video will be destroyed, will be deleted. Now it gives people the opportunity to access their videos and download them beforehand, and provides advance notice, so that's the responsible corporate thing to do. But at the same time, the service does not exist at this point. It's all YouTube. So we know that there's always that susceptibility, even for Blogger at this moment. So that's just recognizing the actuality. The actuality. And that's that. Yo, that's a track from Osalan. That's that. Black Cream, big up. Did I read that from my notes? Long time ago. Um, I think that's much of what we're going to share. Here's another thing also. We're preparing for a new year. Um, in a number of calendars. There's the Hebrew calendar. Elul begins today from our calendar, Rosh Chodesh, and the sounding of the shofar. Um, there's also the new year approaching in the Ge'ez calendar of Ethiopia, which is actually exactly coincides with our Sangha Yosef calendar, which is scary, miraculous. And if we just recognize the intentionality of the Most High, we recognize ain't no coinkydink. So there's that. But in this process of New Year's, there's always that thing of resolution and otherwise. There are many New Years within each year, to be honest and to be respectful. As we prepare for this upcoming year, this is our fiscal calendar. Look at companies; they got fiscal calendars that don't usually begin on January 1st. So, on our fiscal calendar, we look at the approaching year. We write calendars that include all the different calendars from the different traditions, particularly for knowledge and literacy. Oh, dear, we got some provocativeness in the parking lot. Provocative in the parking lot. So that being said, we do a year in advance, knowing when the rituals occur, when the observances occur, so that we can have some mindfulness in this respect. And it fluctuates each year, particularly because many are predicated upon the cycle of the moon. I gotta check what's going on with 2 right there. Is that? Yeah. Now look into that. That might just be necessity of brushing. It might be rice. Making sure it's not indentation, because I feel no softness. I feel no soreness. Anyways, point is that it's looking at the approaching year, and initially for a number of years, like over like maybe a decade, for the past decade, what we endeavor to do is construct or accumulate a 5-year calendar, just because obviously organizations and communities do planning for conferences and things like that. It can be it's actually a rather intense experience of just looking up calendars for 5 years from now. It's somewhat disorientating because it takes us away from where we are at this moment. But it's beneficial to have that planning. That's why usually people are designated to take on that task. That being said, what we recognize amidst everything else that's going on, having the necessity of prioritizing, what we recognize is that, guess what? It may actually be beneficial not to plan ahead for 5 years from now. Why? It is unnatural. And now, now we go back to the whole point I was sharing about the cults. We're going to bring them back one way or the other by the grace of the Most High. But the point is this, that recognizing that every year happens in accordance with the orbit of the Earth around the Soleil, the seasons and everything else like that. There's a momentum, there's a regularity, there's a relationship, there's an energy, there's a message, there are ceremonies that guide us through this experience. And that's beneficial, that's natural, that's healthy. That's what's up. That being said, when we plan further years ahead, that becomes less and less natural, and that becomes further and further predicated upon man's own ideas and ambitions, whether it's military, whether it's construction, or whatever. When we start getting involved in things that require coordination beyond just a year or 2 years or 3 years, military campaigns, constructing skyscrapers, land projects, and additionally, we are getting further and further outside of the experience of the natural. And that takes on its own sentience, its own will, and otherwise. And it's beneficial to be mindful of that, because then it becomes a dichotomy and a crevasse amidst that dichotomy, considerably, and for better and for worse. So it's just a matter of being mindful about this and recognizing that it's not as advantageous, even in the most high-tech Northern European echelons of space travel and engineering and otherwise, to recognize the benefit and limitations of planning. Oh yeah, which reminds me, like mental health. We're talking about activist groups and stuff like that. Mental health groups, psychiatry cults, and I'm speaking from experience. Psychiatry cults, doctors of the priests, secretive, manipulative, uh, doing things, orchestrating things on others. Uh, anyway, so now on that notion of being unnatural, the thing about the cults is that uh, political cults, the Democrats, Republicans, the commercial cults of the corporations, the banks, even the religious cults. Udi. Just as a side note, technically, that's not necessarily what is being communicated when I say Odi or Udi or whatever else, but at the same time, it's technically not necessarily not either. So, just for the record. So all the cults in the United States, political, commercial, religious, mental, sexual, deviant, pedophilia, cannibalist, satanic, and otherwise. All the cults, 99% of the cults are unnatural because the cults are predicated upon something that is from an experience outside of this land. Religion, politics, mental health, activism, environmentalists, exactly. The cults, when you get to the hierarchies of where the secrecy and the exclusivity and the manipulation, unnatural. Unnatural. Not saying evil per se. It's unnatural. And the ambitions, the intentions, the norms, the culture is one that emphasizes and is entrenched within an experience of unnatural, or an experience that devalues, disrespects, derelationizes nature, the natural experience, because the leadership of the hierarchy is from other places of the world. It's imperialistic. It's here because of imperialism, as a process and as a symptom, as an associate of imperialism. So just understanding, we can go to the whole spiel about what it means to be unnatural and the positives and negatives about that, but just to recognize that that's part of it, and that feeds into the manifestations of those unnatural ideologies and intentionalities, devastation of life, nature, water, plants, the things that are healthy, that are perceived as antagonistic towards the controls and the existence of the cults themselves. Even environmentalism. Look at it. Look at it. Look at the people who are professing environmentalism and what they do. Who that is? Is that De La Soul? What they do? No, that's the Roots. So look at what they do. Don't listen to what they say. Look at what they do. Drive cars, eat fancy food, travel a lot, live in ivory towers that are secluded from the masses, that are built upon the devastation of mineral manufacturers, mineral minings, and mass manufacturers and mass agriculture, and additionally, academia is it is that's what's fueling academia. Exploitation, not just of people, but of nature in the world. And all the environmentalists with their degrees and degrees of degrees, that's what they do. And it's not hate, it's not shade, it's all love, it's all truth, as much as I can say. So, and that is unnatural, that is antagonistic to nature. So that's exactly environmentalists. serious facts. 99% from other places. Technology. So that's why it's very frustrating when hearing advocates talk on big networks and everything else like that about what people should be doing. And it's like, no. All right, anyway, not hating, just saying. RD Share Solutions, we've been at this for an hour. We're already past what we said before, so we're going to keep it at that. We give all thanks and praise to the Most High, Elohim. Blessed love and peace of Rastafari.